What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at this week's episode of Smackdown, as well as the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know, including Seth Rollins' return being leaked, big news for Wade Barrett, the Bellas tease an in-ring return, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we won't recap the show, but just provide you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good, as number 1, the Tribal Chief shuts down Kevin Owens. Last night's war of words between Universal Champion Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens featured the anger and passion you'd expect from Owens, a man who's been frustrated in his attempt to wrest the Universal Championship from Roman Reigns, as well as the controlled fury that has become Roman Reigns' calling card. Reigns' pushing of Owens' psychological buttons made the interview effective and did nothing to take away from the challenger's words that showed he's ready for whatever Reigns throws at him at the Rumble. However, as good as the promo was, the WWE made it great by the way it ended it. Now, there are a number of ways to silence one's opponent, and most of them involve some sort of violence. However, Roman Reigns' clicking the remote and ending his war of words with KO was a clever tactic to get into the challenger's head and show him that Reigns is indeed the head of the table. Turning off Owens' promo was simple yet effective work that epitomized Reigns' absolute arrogance towards his opponents. Number 2, the return of Braun Strowman. While we know it'd be incorrect to say that Braun Strowman couldn't have returned at a better time, as the best would have been a surprise return at the Rumble, it was fantastic to see the monster among men back in action and looking more powerful than ever. Strowman has never looked better physically, and hopefully the WWE will use his Rumble appearance to remind fans that Strowman is a true main eventer, not to mention still holding the greatest Royal Rumble title. Yeah, over 1,000 days. But one thing the WWE should figure out before Strowman returns to Raw is whether he's heel, a face, or a tweener. Braun has had far too many turns in the last year and needs a consistent direction. Number 3, Shinsuke's promo. Shinsuke Nakamura is one of the WWE's best and most underutilized workers, along with Cesaro, but it looks like he may be on his way to another push. Last night's verbal confrontation between Nakamura and former teammate Sami Zayn was short and sweet, with Nakamura dismissing Zayn's pleas to help him out. The brief exchange was a reminder that sometimes less is truly more. Number 4, Bianca's win. Last night's segments involving Bianca Belair battling Bayley were pure perfection from start to finish. Bayley cut a strong heel promo acknowledging Belair's skills but questioning her heart. The two then proceeded to have a fantastic match that reminded fans why Bayley is one of the WWE's best, but showed that Belair learned from her past match against her where she came up short. They ended things on the right note by having Belair celebrate her win with a post-match interview that put Bayley over and hinted that Belair's next goal is winning the Women's Royal Rumble. You kinda know that Bayley is going to eliminate her since she got the win last night. Typical WWE booking, but we hope we're wrong. But that was the good. What about the bad? As number 1, brand-to-brand boredom. Is bragging rights this Sunday, or is it the Royal Rumble? Fans tuning into last night's Smackdown had to wonder whether the WWE was doing some sort of invasion angle, as a small army of Raw wrestlers kept popping up. Although AJ Styles' appearance made sense as he wanted a warm-up match to prepare for the Rumble, things started breaking down when The Miz and Morrison showed up, claiming they were there in case The Miz wanted to cash in his contract during the war of words between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. The problem, of course, was that the interview was done in a studio, so Miz's presence was kinda pointless. The WWE only made things worse by ending matches by DQ so they could add more superstars to the match. If they wanted to create a feeling of complete chaos, they succeeded, but it failed to entertain. Adding to the nonsense was the WWE trying to create a Royal Rumble-esque vibe by having Sheamus show up, followed by Braun Strowman. Number 2, car crash television. This week's SmackDown was one step away from a fiasco. You've heard of the WWE's Attitude Era format of crash television, where they book one segment after another in hoping to keep the viewers tuned in. The Blue Brand's writers felt they needed to go one step further with car crash television, as that's what it was like watching last night. Smackdown has been consistently entertaining, but last night's show was all over the place and did nothing to build interest for this Sunday's pay-per-view other than the excellent Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens promo. We'd like to know whether Triple H helped write the show, and if so, whether Vince McMahon was present as well. Whoever approved last night's show either wrote it on the fly or needs to move to Raw so the blue brand can return to its normally entertaining format. Thankfully nothing ugly, but fans had to be confused why so many Raw stars were on the show and what drugs and or alcohol was consumed during the alleged creative process. How else to explain standout segments like the War of Words and Bianca's battle with Bayley, then compare them to the mess that marred the rest of the show? What did you guys think of SmackDown? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at a huge news as Retribution member Mia Yim has tested positive for COVID. Yes, after Mia Yim denied a number of reports that she had COVID, she then released a statement on Twitter to confirm she has the virus. She mentioned, "This morning at around 10:30 AM, I debunked a rumor stating I was positive for COVID. For that, I must make a statement. I've been getting tested every week for several months now, all have been negatives. I was negative last week. I got tested this afternoon less than an hour ago and it came back positive. Please respect my privacy, please stay safe, wash your hands and wear a mask. See you all soon." Now, it's not known as to whether Mia Yim would have been part of the Women's Royal Rumble match, but thankfully she managed to test just before. Had she been in the Rumble, it could have infected a number of superstars. However, what could be concerning is her boyfriend Keith Lee and whether he's been exposed to the virus as well. Now, it's not been confirmed that he has COVID, but he should get himself checked out before potentially being in the Royal Rumble. We wish Mia Yim a quick recovery. Next up, Seth Rollins' return being leaked. Now, we could be seeing a big potential spoiler here, as Dave Meltzer thinks Seth Rollins will return to the Royal Rumble as a surprise entrant, something we mentioned in our Rumors Rumble video. Here's what Meltzer had to say in this week's Observer. Fewer spots are announced than ever before, leading to expectation of surprises. One would expect Seth Rollins to return since he was supposed to weeks ago, and suddenly that changed without explanation. The current thinking is that the Rumble will feature several surprise returns and that Rollins will only be one of the several returning superstars. Who do you think will return at this year's Rumble? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Jon Moxley back in New Japan. Current IWGP United States Champion Jon Moxley has been unable to compete in Japan due to the pandemic, but Mox made a surprise appearance on New Japan Pro Wrestling's Strong television show. The show is based in the US, which may explain Moxley showing up to confront Kenta, the #1 contender for his US Championship. According to WrestleTalk, following the show's main event, Bullet Club attacked their opponents only for the lights to go out. When they came back on, Moxley was in the ring. Moxley hit Kenta with a Death Rider and cut a promo on him. He said he doesn't care about red lights and his foot is now up Kenta's ass. He said Kenta's dream of being champion is a nightmare. He concluded by saying in Tokyo they will have their match at some point. There's no word on when Moxley will return to Japan, but it's good to see New Japan continuing the build for what should be a fantastic match between Mox and Kenta. Next up, the return of the Bellas. There's more talk of an in-ring return by Brie and Nikki Bella. The Bella twins were elected, but not yet inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2020, but they recently teased a return during a virtual appearance on The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Guest host Mario Lopez asked if there was a chance of either one of them returning from retirement, to which Nikki replied, "Oh, definitely." Nikki went on to discuss the WWE's big reveal of the next 3 venues for WrestleMania, adding, "When I heard about Dallas 2022, Hollywood 2023, I got chills. And I said, Brie, we have never gone after the tag titles. They were made for us. There's another run in the Bella Twins. At some point, we're coming back." With WrestleMania around the corner, fans might get to see the Bellas back in action as they challenge whoever is holding the Women's Tag Team Championship at the time. Next up, Wade Barrett becomes a US citizen. Congrats to current NXT announcer and former WWE superstar Wade Barrett on becoming a United States citizen. Wade tweeted the good news along with a picture of him after being sworn in. Barrett made a spectacular debut on the main roster in 2010 as the leader of the Nexus, and he later won the King of the Ring tournament in 2015 and was a member of the short-lived heel faction, the League of Nations. Speaking of which, former League member Miro, who also became a US citizen in 2019, tweeted, "Congrats my fellow American." And finally, a legend WWE tag team is coming out of retirement. Now, who says Sting is too old to wrestle? Well, not Luke Williams and Butch Miller, aka the Bushwhackers, the WWE Hall of Fame tag team who worked as the villainous sheep herders before transforming into the family-friendly Bushwhackers in the WWF, announced they are now available for bookings. They announced this on their Facebook page. Both superstars are in their mid-70s, but apparently that isn't keeping them from wrestling. Perhaps the WWE should revive its gimmick Battle Royal for WrestleMania 37. But there you have it, guys. The good, the bad, and the downright ugly from this week's edition of Smackdown, as well as the wildest wrestling news stories you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.